Okay, next project time. Before I get any further involved in it, I better show you the start from one side anyway. So we're working on the rake, or I'm working on the rake. The issue is those tyres. On these contractor model 10 metre ones, can't keep them up. You can only buy 2 brands of tyres for it, these Mastercraft and a BKT thing, and according to the tyre shop, they're both crap. They're always flat. That's brand new. That was the spare, so it's new. You can see that one's partly flat. These are the 2 better ones. We've already had the other 2 changed out. So what am I doing, you may think? Well, I thought I'll put implement tyres on. Only problem is, I cannot even get my finger in there for clearance below the caster and the tyre. So with the implement tyres being a bigger profile and rounded as well, the only way I could get the wheel back on with the implement tyre was to let the air out, got the tyre on. Of course that was with it jacked up as well, but it was 0 pressure, so that was kind of pointless. So I did have a thought, cut the backs of the casters, have them extended, and cut this bar out, lift it up, weld it back in, more clearance, bigger wheels, or bigger tyres on the wheels. But it was a lot more involved than that. Plus I didn't want to under-engineer it, go backwards. Thought if I had longer casters at the back there, more prone to twisting and bending. So after talking to the company owner at the Henty Field Days and giving it further thought, and it was still a case of he was trying to talk me into do it the other way. But I've decided to over rather than under engineer it, and basically save them the headache of manufacturing any different components, well, as minimal different componentry as possibly needed. So I've decided to put the running gear in, including this beam, from the 12 metre one. Now the issue is also this is 100 by 75, whereas the 12 metre one is 125 by 125. So whether that's an issue or not, well, it won't be welding it in. I'm just going to have to patch a few bits, fill in a few gaps. But so this is the before side. What I've done so far is sling the block and tackle to the truss and basically removed the running gear. So they were the old casters and bearing housings, bolts, the steering rod so that both wheels move correctly. That's the shaft over there, out of it. And currently at the moment, we're looking at that. So what I have done, and it's been a bastard of a fucking job, sort of, to an extent. Taken all that out the bottom, cut those gussets out, cut that section out. I only had to trim this 5 mil or so, just to give it enough room, thankfully. This beam was too tight to get in. I don't know whether these aren't quite welded on perfectly square, even though I tried coming in from the other side as well, which was nigh on impossible on your own. Probably didn't have enough clearance under here at the time, so I've had to grind that. I'd cut that with the plasma, got it all nice and square, but I think I may have been borderline on my tolerances and it was just a fraction too tight. So hence, I couldn't get the spacers in, which was another technical issue from the other day when I picked the parts up that was resolved by using those spacers, because the consensus was sling the thing, which I have sort of done to get the wheels off, but what I did, because that maxed out the block and tackle, so I made up 2 jack stands, which were the exact height of the rake when it's sitting on the ground. So I had the tyres pumped up to 50 psi, so they weren't half flat already. Measured down from there to the ground, made them, jacked it up, put them under, took the tyres off, then pulled all this apart. The issue that I discovered the other day, which wouldn't quite have been an issue, except it's even less of an issue now because I've got them to cut it perfectly square, hopefully, is, believe it or not, this beam has a twist in it. Probably, potentially that way, I think, because it was to allow for the casters, if they welded them in straight, they said they had issues with the casters moving out. So you can see there, sort of. Can't quite see it as good as what you could before. Probably on this side, we'll go around this side, you can see it, because that 125 mil sticks out too far now. Right, if I try and hold that, where are we? You can see it's leaning in. There's a significant gap there and it's tight down there. So you've got to twist that inwards to allow for the casters to flex back a bit. So that potentially, they thought would have been an issue for me, but I said, well, I was going to make spacers to put in here, so if you cut them at the exact height I need, differential between there, which is 125 mils, then I've got them that are sitting on there because I wasn't never going to cut that out first, and then I can get that in there, sitting them on there perfectly, whether I clamp it or whether I don't have to clamp it. I may well clamp it before I, well, I will clamp it just to make it 100% sure before I weld it in completely, which I can't do yet. I'll get to that. Because by suspending it on jack stands or having jack stands under it, rather than suspending it from above, the boss was worried that if I cut this beam out, that the rake would spread, the frame could potentially spread or twist, So his suggestion was weld something in there or across here to stop it. After having the engineer or the designer, whatever, I don't know his technical term, draw all this up on SolidWorks to make sure it was going to work and so they could cut everything correctly. You can see the huge gap between here. So what I decided to do in my head long before I'd even been there was this, so I could sit that on it so that I got the correct height. And then once I'd done that, just top them out. I've already put a cut around there. I don't need to. I've got enough room that I can get the plasma in there to cut that. Anyway, so then I'll just cut that bottom bit out, clean up those end bits, and that will be that. There's a bit of stuffing around getting the geometry right for the steering, which is to come, because you have to weld that bush in to the bottom. I'll show you on this one. This bush needs to be welded into there, which you can only do once you put the new steering arm in. And once you've got the casters in, I'm still waiting on bearing housings. They've got them made, but they needed machining, so I couldn't pick them up the other day. So you set that up, you put your new casters in, or actually first of all, put your 2 bolts in, measure everything, get that centred correctly. You've got to have your steering arm in so that that's square. I will tack that in underneath, then take this whole thing out again, because you've got to tap that nylon bush out before you weld it up. So then I can weld it up on the flat. I've already established the height, because believe it or not, the 12 metre ones, well, besides that, had to be made specifically for me, I think, because the end that goes on, which is the likes of one of those, is paired so that the holes are drilled all together, so you don't get any, well, so you can get the roll pin through. But you can see the bearing housing, I've got that on. I think I've measured it all up correctly. The difference between this one and the other one is that that is on top with that pin underneath, whereas that pin goes through so the bar sits on top. So that sort of had me thrown out for a minute. I thought that was wrong, because when I sat it in there, the length of the bloody thing was way down here somewhere, and I thought, fuck, don't tell me they've given me just the standard 12 metre one. But once I looked at it a bit further and established that yes, that bit had to go up, because that had to be above rather than underneath. So against that one to that one, it was the correct distance. So it should work. So I've got to set that up, do that. Then I can weld this back in, or weld it in place. And so, kind of getting there. I'm just doing one side at a time so that A, I've got the other side for reference. B, I've only got 2 jack stands made, so don't think I had enough 6-inch, spare 6-inch stuff to make another 2. I don't think I had enough 4-inch either. But anyway, don't think I've got any over there. One side at a time will bloody do. It's, you don't want to be too risky having it just sitting on nothing. So. And they're the, they're the new ones for the 12 metre, which are significantly larger, bigger hubs compared to those ones. And these are the difference in height of those tyres. You can see the difference in the profile. So I would anticipate they will last a lot longer. They put highway tyres on so that people can tow them down the road at 100 k's an hour behind a vehicle. Well, I really wouldn't want to be towing a Rake down the road at 100 k's an hour anyway. And how often do you do that? So I'd rather have good implement tyres for the paddock rather than something for the road that they just end up completely chopped out. That's a good one compared to the one of the ones I took off. It was just chopped out to the shithouse. So anyway, I think this is long enough. So that is what I am up to.